Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spincast. Today, we're back on the topic of collegiate esports, really diving deeper into the scene of what it looks like at Northwestern University. Joined today by three people from Northwestern University. We have Braden, who is the president of the esports club, Noah, who is the vice president of the esports club, and Michael, who is the head coach of the League of Legends team there at Northwestern. So without further ado, go ahead, introduce yourselves, talk about where your passion in esports started and how that took you all the way into being in your current roles at Northwestern Esports Club. So I'll let Michael go first, and then we'll go with Braden and Noah.
Yeah. So I'm Michael. I run the esports side of League of Legends at Northwestern. And I think definitely for me, what really appealed to me about esports back in high school was this idea of just how fast you can improve in esports, being able to fail really quickly, but then learn, where those mistakes are is something that really appealed to me when there's such a low stakes environment. And then coming into college, I was just looking for a club that had the same interests of me so I could meet some new people. That's how I ended up at the League of Legends club here at Northwestern.
Sweet. Go ahead, Braden.
Hey, I'm Braden. I'm a sophomore. And I guess I kind of got into the scene, as you might call it, in my freshman year of high school. I stumbled upon League of Legends after I was introduced to it by a friend and just kind of dove straight in, played all the time, and started watching the LCS and got super involved with it. And eventually that spread over towards Overwatch, into Counter-Strike, into some card games, and it's blossomed into a really fun thing for me. And I wanted to stick with it when I got to Northwestern, so I sought out the club and became a regular attendee and just kind of, built it up from there. And now I wound up here as a sophomore, which I think is pretty cool.
Sweet. Yeah, definitely getting a president of any club at your second year is also very impressive, to say the least. So what about you, Noah?
Yeah, so I actually started off playing Smash in high school. In my friend group, that was a really big thing, and really like a great opportunity to connect with people. And as we started to go to local tournaments, we realized that a lot of us had, and I realized that I had a really big passion for competing and just really developing those like relationships with the people in Smash scene, because Smash specifically is very, you have to interact with a lot of people. Person, which is really cool. So when I came here to Northwestern, I definitely sought out, as kind of Michael and Braden said, just a group of people of that same mindset to connect with them and facilitate relationships there. And I ended up starting the stream here at Northwestern and just dedicating a lot of time to the Smash Club, to the point where now I'm really just trying to dedicate a lot of time to growing up the esports community in general here on the university. And it's just really awesome, the kind of relationships we're able to build, and the relationships everyone's able to form through esports. It's really great.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of my favorite parts about esports is the community side, right? There's obviously some negative tendencies that, the stereotypes surrounding esports, but the vast majority is those inclusive, holistic type of communities where everyone wants to be involved at any kind of degree, whether that's having fun on Friday night on campus with a few buddies playing Smash, or practicing every day for a League of Legends championship at that hyper competitive level. Awesome stuff. Good to hear from all of you. My first question would be to go a little more in depth, and this is for you, Braden, since you're the president. Go a little more in depth about how the club runs, what games you guys have, what kind of competitions y'all seek out, and kind of what that day-to-day looks like for those students that compete at that high level in the esports club.
Sure. So right now, as far as the big stuff we have, Smash is by far our biggest game. We have the most active participants. We run typically 3 tournaments a school year, 3 or 4. And then we have, we have 2 or 3 big tournaments, and we have small tournaments weekly as well. And then we have League of Legends. We usually have, I think right now we have 3 or 4 competitive teams.
Yeah.
Playing at several different levels. We play through CSL, through C-Star League, so they play weekly, as well as our the Big Ten team. And then we also have a Counter-Strike team that is comparatively pretty casual, but also through CSL, play weekly during the school year.
Mhm.
And then lately, within the last 2 months, we have founded an Overwatch team as well. So a lot of it is working with those teams, playing individually on their weeks, whatnot. Personally, I oversee Counter-Strike, so generally speaking, it's a little more casual because we haven't found people who want to really get competitive about it yet.
Mhm.
So it's pretty much, show up, play our games, go home,
Yeah.
But the rest of it is a little bit more involved.
For sure, for sure. Awesome stuff there. Michael, my next question is for you. Diving into the more competitive side of things with League of Legends, right? League of Legends amongst CSGO as well, or those are kind of like the two pillars, so to say, of esports in the North American scene, at least. Those are the two really big games for sure. So take me through what a practice day looks like. How do those teams, you said you had 3 or 4, how do your teams approach practice, approach training, approach how to improve on that weekly basis so they can continue to climb through the competitions in CSL mainly, as you mentioned earlier?
Right. Well, it definitely depends on the team because, like Braden was saying, we kind of cater to all levels here. And so for the teams that compete in CSL, which is all of our teams except for, I guess, like our varsity team, you could say, they're definitely a bit more casual. And generally, it actually turns out that in CSL, there's like a golden underleague in League of Legends. And they actually tend to be the most competitive of our teams. And so for those teams, practice is mostly just, queuing up for ranked flex. Occasionally, they'll scrim with other colleges, mostly in like the Chicago area.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so for those teams, there's not like a set schedule of when they'll practice. And then for our varsity team, which in the past generally just competes against other Big Ten teams. And now recently we've transitioned just to Riot's overall tournament, which is I think Seal. They'll practice a little bit more regularly, which can be kind of tough, especially here at Northwestern. There's not always a lot of time to spend on extracurriculars. But for regular practice, once again, they'll try and scrim against other colleges or play some ranked flex. And definitely that practice will start to get more frequent as we go into our season. And then during the off season, it's a lot more relaxed, especially after the season is finished.
Yeah, for sure. I know playing any game at that hyper competitive level, right? Whether that's esports or traditional sports or any other competition, takes so much time and effort, really making sure that you balance your time appropriately to really make that process efficient and effective in winning championships ultimately, right? That's the goal of the competition, amongst other things as well. My next question is for you, Noah. You touched on 2 points that I thought were interesting earlier, mainly with Smash, since that's what you grew up with, is that Smash has that really kind of niche competitive scene. Don't want to be demeaning in that. It's just very kind of like, I don't want to say isolated, but they're there for sure, strong where they are, but they are kind of smaller for sure compared to the other esports titles. And then also Smash has a massive casual community too, right? A lot of people love to sit down and play the game just for fun with their friends on a Friday night. For sure. So speak to the kind of duality of that casual and esports competitiveness within Smash and in the esports scene in general at that collegiate level, and kind of how you guys deal with the duality in your club at Northwestern as well.
Yeah, that's actually been a hot topic for our club in this recent time, especially with the current pandemic going around. We are really trying to focus on student engagement as a whole. And I think our focus in the past has been really that kind of competitive side of things. So our Smash Club, as Braden mentioned, we're running weekly tournaments, singles tournaments. And then we actually have 2 days where the second day will be a more kind of casual, fun day. So in that aspect, in that regard, we're able to cater more towards, there's a competitive side of things, which I think is our main audience at this time. But there's also the casual side of things for those who just want to either practice or sit down with their friends and whatnot. But I think as a club as a whole, we're trying to move towards appealing to the more general audience, potentially the more casual audience. Smash is a fantastic way to do that. We're looking at getting into some of the like Big Four sports games, and as a club offering some opportunities there, and even maybe even pairing some like league watch parties with something like really casual and fun, like the Jackbox games, which are on the stage, which have like a really high appeal just for people to come sit down, and potentially that could increase their exposure to the more competitive side of things. Because as you kind of touched on earlier, competitive league, Smash, just esports in general are a huge time sink. And at our university, which runs on the quarter system, which is super fast paced, and for our organization, which is completely student ran, these things do take a lot of time. And a lot of people don't necessarily have that time or want to commit the time to engage in esports in a competitive sense. No, there are certainly a lot of people who want to engage in esports, potentially even in a casual type of sense, and maybe even just watching and following what the different teams or players are doing.
For sure, absolutely, yeah. I know that it's a very hard thing to accomplish, and that kind of leads to my next question. That this is going to be all for all three of you. I want to see your all unique perspectives on this. Is how do we approach that work-life balance, so to say, or that work-college balance, right? Especially in college when you have so much responsibilities in your coursework, you still want to have a social life, you want to pursue some other extracurricular. So Braden, I'll let you go first. How do you as a club really address those work-life balances? Are there any particular things that pop into your mind in regard to that question?
Right. So like Noah mentioned, this is something that we've been talking about quite a bit lately, because Northwestern is a notoriously rigorous school, because like we do the quarter system, and it's very intensive. It doesn't leave a lot of free time, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So we are trying to like find a way that we can appeal on a very I hate to continue using the word casual, but casual basis to all students that we can that we can show ourselves to, even if it's something like just setting up a table in the student center and having a pair of consoles on tables that people can just come sit down, play for 10 minutes, and continue on with their day. And we're trying to move a little further towards that, because we've been so focused on catering towards the competitive side in really all four of the games that we currently run things for, that we are trying to step outside that a little bit and engage more of the student body through, like Noah mentioned, things like Jackbox, or setting up that table, or potentially working with athletics to do small events at the sports games and things like that, and trying to just let people see that this is something that they can come and do for 15 minutes with their buddy that they happen to be walking around campus with, and then continue on with their day. It's not something where they have to sit down for 3 hours to watch this best of 5 League of Legends game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what we're focusing on right now.
Yeah, for sure. I always like to see the future transition to kind of like where traditional sports kind of stands, where like you play pickup basketball, right? You grab 2 or 3 of your friends, you go shoot some, right? See that, with esports where we kind of eliminate that duality. We're like, okay, to play esports or these esports titles like League or CS, I need to sit down and play for 4 hours. It's like, no, you can have fun with it, right? You can watch your friends play in a competition. So seeing that kind of transition start to happen where that becomes more mainstream will definitely be exciting for sure. So Michael, same topic, but obviously a different focus there, since you're already really involved with a very competitive game in League of Legends. So what are your kind of thoughts to responding to that?
Yeah, well, definitely, I think, the main thing that drew me to like the League of Legends club at the beginning in particular was like the social aspect of it, because we'll have weekly meetings, just where everyone can come and hang out and just play for fun. You don't necessarily have to be playing on an esports team or practicing to come to the meetings, and it's definitely been about more so on the social aspect than the game itself. So, if we get there one day and, nobody wants to play League, then we'll just do something else. It's more about the people and just, having fun, finding a way to kind of relax from the week. And definitely that's, I think, our main approach to trying to deal with, that balance is that, it doesn't always have to be competitive. Sometimes it's just nice to relax. That's definitely a big appeal.
For sure, for sure. Awesome there. No, I know you're the one that brought the topic. Is there anything else after hearing your two classmates say to that? Anything you want to expand on there?
Yeah, I think just touching on the point that I guess life as a student here at Northwestern, more times than not, ends up being very stressful due to academics because of, like as Braden said, the notorious,
Very
rigorous
institution for sure.
the university. But I think esports are a wonderful way to sort of escape that, at least for a little bit. And I think, as Michael kind of touched on, like really wonderfully, it's really about the people in the community. And I think, as I touched on earlier, like developing those relationships and using it as a kind of like healthy way to de-stress, whether it's in that competitive light or just in a casual, just a more relaxed setting, just hanging out with friends. Both serve as a really wonderful way to remove yourselves from just like the academic rigor that's like continually surrounding you, and that like on this campus there's kind of like a culture of everyone's constantly like stressed from school, more or less, and being able to step away from that and into a more hopefully like positive environment, and something that I personally might want to push as we're moving forward, and as I'm going into my senior year, so this might be my last year, would be to really kind of push for esports participants, athletes, to really kind of at least reflect on their own mental health, and that they aren't like killing themselves in participating in this, that they're managing their time in a proper way so that they don't become like overwhelmed. Because I know personally for myself, managing Smash Club for a little while and managing the stream was a very big time commitment. And as an engineering student myself, it ended up taking a large chunk of my week, and to the point where it was almost sometimes a little bit overwhelming. And we, again, want esports to be a community and be a place where people can come and engage, and it just be a really positive experience. So really focusing on like that kind of mental health aspect of things might be something really awesome moving forwards.
Yeah, for sure. That's something that my research has been done into that mental health surrounding esports, right? And really more into like the medical approach of and the psychological approach of like what are the effects of these mental stress on your body, and they're really interesting. So I do invite you to definitely check out some of that research there, because it is really fascinating, and looking at how stress affects performance in the game and then also your quality of life outside of the game. So incredible there. My next question for all of you, looking at the future of collegiate esports, right? We've been kind of hinting, okay, we want to see this emergence of casual gaming and esports competitiveness as well. Where do you, all three in your separate ways, hope to see the scene continue to move towards, both for that esports competitive scene? There's been a lot of talk of the NCAA or these Power 5 conferences getting involved. Not sure this is going to happen sooner or later because of the pandemic, obviously. But, you know, speak to where you see the competitive side of esports is in the collegiate scene and where you hope to see it evolve into. And also that casual kind of media awareness where we can help make gaming mainstream, where it's a, you know, really inclusive environment rather than just this place where a lot of people just feel like they can't go because they don't really play the game. So I'll let you go first, Braden.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of people, getting involved in the scene from the get-go is breaking the notion that, you know, sitting down for 45 minutes to watch a League of Legends game is an unbearable time sink. Right? I think, just as an example, because if we're still looking at comparing it to traditional sports, you know, a typical basketball, football, baseball, hockey game, whatever, you know, you're sitting down for 3 hours. So I think if we're looking at that, I think we have to start by breaking that notion that 45 minutes for a video game is an absurdly long time.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's the case. And once you really get into it, you realize that that's not the case. But it's a hard misconception to break, I think. And then looking past that, I mean, the competitive scene is definitely emerging a lot faster than the casual scene is, I feel like. And especially us being so close to Robert Morris University, which has pioneered that, I think.
Mhm.
We've seen, or at least some of us have seen firsthand what they are pushing and how they've grown that program, and um, we're trying to take small steps from them to work that way as well, because it's tough to find that balance between work and life, and especially for these universities who are so rooted in their traditional sports and what they do. It's hard to get a lot of them to take that leap to hire professional staff to work with these clubs, to work with these players who are taking it super seriously, but are not being given the support that they need to be successful in it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, I think that's a big theme that I've seen a lot in these podcasts. I've done so many of them now that support staff, a lot of universities, especially it seems the bigger the university gets, um, the less support they're willing to give. They're like, oh, we'll hire an esports coach, right? They can take care of it. It's like, wait, what about we have 9 games? You're telling me one coach is going to manage all 9 teams, coach all 9 teams, lead analysis, schedules, all that kind of stuff. You know, probably a little bit more than just one. Definitely a lot of it, right? And collegiate football team has what, 50 coaches, almost as many as players, in some level or another. So really good point there. Really hope we see that change in the upcoming years. So Michael, what do you hope to see in the future of esports? Where do your ambitions lie or desire with looking at the future?
Yeah, well, definitely. I think one of the most interesting things is going to be if colleges start seeing esports as kind of like an investment. Because a lot of times when people ask, oh, why do colleges put so much money into their sports programs? And, of course, there's a lot of benefits to like the students, and it's fun to watch. You get student engagement. But if they have to justify it through like money, we'll just say that it's a big part of alumni donations, right? That like feeling that sense of school pride later down the line is going to kind of incentivize people to donate a little bit more back to the school, since they'll feel that connection. And I think that through esports, you're going to kind of find a whole new market of people who are interested in becoming more engaged with their school that otherwise you might not have really found out with traditional sports. I mean, there's definitely an overlap between people who are interested in esports and regular sports.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll be interesting to see if it'll be more of an investment, or if it's just going to be kind of, just another club at schools. And then definitely on the casual side, I'm really looking forward to our next year when we get all the new members into our club, because specifically Riot's released the new game mode Clash, which is essentially like their in-client esports tournaments. And I think that for a lot of people has been their first exposure to playing competitively in like an organized team. And I think that's going to have a lot of interest for people who otherwise might not have known how fun esports can be. So I'm really interested to see how many more people we have interested in esports than we have in the past, specifically in League of Legends.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely exciting news there. I always love to see more competitive options, right? Because there's so much, especially like when I started playing competitive about 4 or 5 years ago, I played Rainbow Six, and it was very difficult to go from that, playing ranked online to playing competitive, right? They're almost 2 different games. And it's kind of the same in most places, but really having those different routes and avenues where you can play competitively, but maybe you're still not playing against pros, right? That's probably not going to be very fun. You're probably just going to get crushed. So yeah, very exciting there. So Noah, what about you? What do you hope to see in the future?
Yeah, I think I would really hope to see some kind of administrative support. Again, we've kind of touched on this before, as the other were saying, but I think Michael made a really great point about seeing esports as a potential investment. And I think it could be one that's not necessarily even monetary. It could be an investment in student engagement. And I guess it depends on how much weight the actual university places on that. But Braden and I have seen some data from DePaul just recently, within the last year or so, put up a very visually appealing esports center on their campus, and it was open to the general student population, and over half of their students at some point in the year came through that space and utilized the facilities there. So it's something, if you do it right, an esports space on campus can be something that is actually utilized by a lot of the student population, because a lot of young people are familiar with technology, are familiar with video games, and they are familiar with it in a very like hyper competitive sense, or just something like they will do in their free time for fun, like total fun. People are familiar with the idea, the concept, and if you're able to create a space that's very visually appealing, then you can get a lot of people coming through. So with that in mind, that would open the door for there to be some serious monetary gain down the line, as Michael was kind of saying, as people are able to kind of connect and relate a little bit more to the competitive side of esports because they've been exposed to it, then that can open the door for much more monetary investment with the backing of like a general student population. So I'm really hoping that at least for our university and just universities in general, for the collegiate esports scene, be able to start backing just esports, collegiate esports as a whole, and really see the opportunity there is there for meaningful student engagement. And it's not just a minority of the student population, which I think a lot of just like people will think, that there is a large audience that's there and they're kind of just waiting for the facilities to come into existence.
Exactly.
Right. I want to add on to that real quick, actually. I think that for us, we've been talking a lot about future goals for the club, be it, within the next 2 months, moving into the summer, coping with COVID, or the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. And I think we've decided that trying to push for our own dedicated space on campus is one of the things that is a long-term goal for sure, but by all means something that we want to reach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think having those dedicated spaces is like one of the best ways for not only student engagement, but just community engagement too. That's when we can really bolster just that mainstream esports mentality, where esports isn't just hyper competitive gaming. Esports is everything, right? It's the guys behind the scenes doing the production, learning the technologies, learning the softwares and hardwares. It's the people playing for fun, right? Or that, somewhere in between competitiveness where like you might be somewhat good, but you're not good enough to go pro, but you still want to play, you still want to compete, and having those like competitions at those levels, and having a place to do it at that is widely acceptable to the community and the students, of course, at universities, I think would be extremely just great in general. So I'm absolutely excited to see that. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Some great content, really diving deep into a lot of number of topics surrounding collegiate esports. Hope to have you guys back on the show soon in some of our exciting upcoming panels where we're going to bring in a number of guests from different universities and really bounce more ideas off of each other. So real quick, each of you plug yourself, tell us where we can find you, whether that's on Twitch, social media, and then also Braden, since you're the president, tell us where we can find out more about the club at Northwestern as well.
Sure. Yeah. So we are on Twitch, twitch.tv/Northwestern Esports, spelled exactly how it sounds. Twitter @NU Esports. And most of our information, we have a Facebook page. Just search Northwestern Esports, you'll find that. We've been using that a little bit less lately, and we've been transitioning more heavily to using our Discord and our Twitter to facilitate pretty much everything. And because of the pandemic and whatnot, it's been a little bit quieter lately. But our Discord is always open. Anyone is welcome. We're happy to have anybody who wants to take part.
Sweet. Michael, Noah, anything? You want to plug yourself or anything else to add to that?
Nothing really to add for league clubs, since a lot of our stuff is under just like the esports club as a whole.
Awesome. What about you, Noah?
Yeah, nothing really to add. I think if you're looking to get Discord or just our emails may be listed in university registry, we'll be there to do so.
For sure. I know all of us in the esports scene, we love to talk about it. We love to expand our ideas and really grow the industry as a whole at whatever little corner we can, right? Obviously right now we're on Collegiate Esports. So all of our listeners, never hesitate to reach out. We all just want to sit down and talk and really expand what we love so much. So thanks again for joining me today, gentlemen. It was a fantastic time. Everyone out there, stay healthy, stay happy in this current pandemic, and ultimately stay plugged in.